The State of Mind Index is a global study looking at 26,000 people across 22 individual countries, with 1,000 people at least from every individual country, looking at the relationship between how much we move and engage in exercise and our state of mind, i.e. our well-being. And what we specifically see across all of those individual countries is quite a consistent relationship. The more people move, the better their state of mind. So on average, the people who are active, engaging in 150 minutes of exercise per week, people had a 67 or 66 score, out of 100, compared to it was 57 for those who were inactive. And we defined active as 150 minutes per week and inactive as 30 minutes or less per week. So the more people move, the better they feel. And there's some other interesting findings. We continue to see what we're concerned about being an exercise gender gap, where women are exercising on average less than men, and we need to do something about that, and we have been doing things to address that. But we see this new relationship, which is really important, where 15 to 17 seems to be a real critical window for people to continue to remain in activity. So for people who remained active during that window, we see much better well-being later in life compared to those who drop out. And in fact, every year people remain active, there is like what we call a dose-response relationship between better state of mind in adulthood. So it really goes to show it's key to keep people engaged. But sort of concern as a challenge, if we look at the silent generation, there was 57% of people who were engaging in regular exercise compared to 19% of Gen Z. So Gen Z and younger people are doing much less on average than the older generations, and we don't want that to be becoming an issue for people's well-being in the here and now, and also in the future.
And I'm interested to know what the inspiration kind of was behind this study at the very beginning.
Yeah, so the inspiration was really to try and have a leading novel way to understand the relationship between movement and exercise and the mind. And in order to do that is we need robust research, we need robust data, and we need robust measurement. So that was the idea behind all of this. If we're going to go out and make a difference, we need to understand what the state of the mind is in terms of movement and mental health. And ASICS committed to doing this 2 years ago, and identified in this sort of novel survey some important areas to focus on, recently focusing on the gender exercise gap, and really sort of taking this forward to this being like a standard that we can continue to come back in, like a measuring yardstick to understand that relationship between movement and the mind, and understanding areas where we need to have particular focus to address where some segments of society are not experiencing as much mental health benefits as others, so we really need to focus on those areas. So that's really the inspiration of all of this, is data to understand and data to provide actionable insights to make a difference.
And I understand you said there as well about the younger generation are disengaging in exercise a lot more than they are ahead of their generation before them. I think it's quite clear that the reason behind that could be technology, and it's a big factor at the moment. What would you say when it comes down to that, and how important it is for the younger generation to get involved in exercise?
Yeah, so the younger generation is a real concern for us. So we consistently see that those who continue to engage in exercise continue to experience better later life well-being, and every year we can keep people engaged is critical. So this really critical window between 15 to 17, where we really need to allow young people to have fun, enjoyment, and experience the mental health and the physical health benefits of engaging in exercise. So it's a real critical window. We need much more to do to help and support young people. We see this sort of concerning overall relationship that Gen Z, for instance, and younger generations are doing much less exercise, and 19% on a daily exercise, compared to silent generations where they're engaging in 57%. So there's this growing disparity in what younger people are doing versus older people. So we need to really try and address that gap, so we don't have in the now changes where people not be accessing those benefits, but also in the future.
And we were just speaking about the UK there, off camera. The stats there are 65 average, and the 61 is down at the UK. I'm interested to know your thoughts a bit more about that, and if there is plans in place to kind of improve that a bit more and get that higher.
Yeah, so you're right, the UK was slightly lower on average, in terms of the global state of mind scores by roughly 4 points. But we continue to see the same kind of relationships that people in the UK who were engaging in exercise and activity had higher state of mind scores than those who were inactive. And we continue to see that relationship between 15 to 17 of people dropping out at higher levels, but also every year we keep people active, the better people's well-being. But we need to do much more, so there's much more concerted efforts that we need to do to keep young people engaged, have positive experiences. So I'm expecting there will be some exciting initiatives where we can really come back to this with data and confidence, and we can measure if what we're doing is making a difference.
And how do you think elite athletes can play a part in that as well?
So elite athletes have a really important role because they are role models for many people. We all look up to elite athletes in a sport that we find particularly inspiring, so I think it's really, really important. But I think what's interesting from some of the work we've done with a project called Move Her Mind study and other work has been, we asked lots of people, lots of women, who are your key role models that inspired you to engage in exercise? And of course elite athletes did play a key role within that, but what was really identified within that, including young women and older women too, was that it was those everyday athletes around them as well, their friends, their family members, who really inspired them and motivated them to engage in exercise too. So I really encourage people to look up to athletes, but then find those everyday athletes in your life who can join you on this journey to having fun and enjoyment through sport and exercise too.
And my final question for you is, when it comes down to the future, kind of looking ahead, what are your plans in place? Is this project going to keep going? Are you going to have a look at this study?
Yeah, so this has been done so we can measure differences from 2 years ago, and we can have actionable insights, so we can identify groups of people where we can really go and make a difference, and we can remeasure and test this in the interim period and again in 2 years. So ASICS has done this for 2 time periods now, and we've identified groups where we need action. So I'm expecting, well, I can't speak on ASICS' behalf, that there will be projects going in to really measure and innovate to address those needed areas, and that we can measure this in the future to say, has what we're doing made a difference? And we can come back to this and we can remove the guesswork from it, and we can rely on data